the true story of the Vikings in America, buried for 1,000 years. You've probably been told that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, right? Well, what if I told you that's only part of the story, and that 500 years before that, the Vikings had already made it across the Atlantic, built homes, forged tools, and even got into deadly battles with Native Americans? Yeah, they were here first. But then something went very, very wrong. For centuries, this story sounded like a drunken myth from a dusty Norse saga, until archaeologists found real, physical proof buried beneath the Canadian soil. And what they uncovered? It flipped the script on everything we thought we knew about first contact. In this video, you'll uncover the hidden story of Vinland, meet a pregnant Viking warrior who terrified an entire indigenous army, and find out why the most fearless explorers in history had to flee like scared kids in the middle of the night. This isn't just history. It's a forgotten battle that could have changed the world. The Lost Land, called Vinland. Picture this: crossing a freezing ocean with no GPS, no detailed maps, just the stars and your gut feeling. That's exactly what Leif Erikson and his crew did. When they stumbled across Vinland, they didn't just find land. They found hope. Wild grapes, milder weather, and a landscape that looked like nature itself was throwing them a welcome party. I mean, after weeks at sea, even a flat patch of grass probably looked like paradise. Now, Vikings being Vikings, they immediately saw potential. Vinland wasn't just pretty, it was useful. Dense forests, plenty of wood, fat fish, and fertile soil. You know how people today are ditching the city for more peaceful living? That instinct's not new. These folks were tired of cold battles and short harvests. They wanted to plant roots, literally. And for a moment, it looked like they might actually do it. But hold up, not so fast. Vinland wasn't just sitting there, waiting to be claimed. It wasn't empty. There were eyes watching them, feet that had walked that land long before the first Viking ship ever kissed the shore. And that's when things started to feel off, like the quiet before a storm. The real owners step in while the Vikings were busy setting up camp and getting comfy in Vinland. Someone else was already watching. Not wolves, not spirits, but people, real people. The Beothuk, one of the native groups who had called that land home for generations, had front row seats to the Viking invasion. And to them, these scruffy, noisy guys with weird metal hats must have looked like something straight out of a fever dream. Imagine waking up to find strangers building a cabin in your backyard. That's the vibe, Dot? And did the Vikings try to be neighborly? Nah, they called the locals Skraelings, which, in Viking speak, basically meant the weird ones, or those freaky outsiders. So yeah, not exactly a warm welcome. And that first contact? Cold, awkward, a total tension bomb. This wasn't some magical meeting of cultures. It was more like two stray dogs sniffing each other out, waiting to see who'd bite first. If you've ever lived in a neighborhood where people give you side eye just for parking wrong, you know exactly how this felt. Only instead of nasty notes on your windshield, you had spears, war paint, and ancient rituals. It was only a matter of time before things got ugly. And oh boy, they did dot from campfires to flying arrows at first. There was still a flicker of hope. They tried to trade furs for metal tools, fish for goat milk. You know, the usual, let's play nice routine. But let's be real. Patience was never the Vikings' strong suit. All it took was one bad deal, one crooked look, maybe a word lost in translation, and boom, things escalated fast. What started as tiny tensions turned into full-blown small disputes, the kind that smolder quietly until someone finally lights the match. And that match was lit one dark night. Without warning, the Beothuk launched a surprise attack. No declarations, no drums, no honor duel, just straight-up chaos. The Vikings, caught off guard while trying to retreat to their ships, were hit with a flurry of arrows from the trees. Picture a bunch of hardened warriors running through the woods like startled deer, clutching their shields while the forest seemed to rain death from above. Not exactly the glorious conquest they had in mind. And the wild part? This kind of thing still happens, not with spears, but in real life. You ignore red flags in a toxic relationship, then suddenly you're in a full-blown emotional ambush. Or you stay in a job that drains you, thinking those little issues aren't that bad, until burnout punches you in the face. The Vikings had their warning signs, but just like us sometimes, they waited too long to listen out the heroic and totally unexpected moment in the middle of all that chaos. Warriors running, arrows flying, panic everywhere. Someone did the unthinkable. Her name? Freydís Eiríksdóttir. She was pregnant. Everyone else was scrambling to get to the boats, but she stood her ground. She grabbed a fallen sword, slapped it against her chest like a war drum, and screamed loud enough to make the trees shiver. That moment, pure, raw defiance. Like she wasn't just protecting her people, she was daring the enemy to try her. And guess what? It worked. The Skraelings, who were ready to wipe out the last of the Vikings, froze. They backed off. They didn't see a pregnant woman with a blade. They saw something else. Something terrifying. A force, maybe even a spirit. And honestly, can you blame them? If you saw someone that fearless, that intense, standing alone in a battlefield, wouldn't you think twice too? This scene became legend. And not just because of how epic it was, but because it flips everything we assume about Viking history. It wasn't brute strength or battle strategy that saved the day. It was a woman with nothing to lose and zero fear. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change the outcome. But unfortunately, not the whole story. Mass escape, the end of the Viking dream in America, after that insane standoff with Freydís literally scaring off an army. The Vikings had to face a hard truth. Vinland wasn't going to be easy. Sure, it had wild grapes and milder weather, but it also came with real danger. The Beothuk weren't backing down, and the land clearly wasn't up for grabs. For all their strength and pride, the Vikings knew one thing: constant small disputes weren't worth dying. Oh, so yeah, it was time to pack up and go. They left behind their huts, their tools, their dreams of a new home across the ocean. The fleeing wasn't traumatic. No flames, no last battles, just a quiet retreat into the sea. It was a humbling move. Sometimes it takes more courage to walk away than to keep fighting. And honestly, that applies to life too. Walking away from a toxic place, a dead-end plan, or a dream that's turned into a nightmare. That's not giving up. That's choosing to survive smart. So the big question is, if they really left, how do we even know they were ever there? I mean, if the forest swallowed everything, how can we be sure this whole Viking in America saga isn't just a good story passed down over too many drinks? Archaeological evidence that backs it all up for centuries. This whole story sounded like some wild Viking bedtime tale. Cool, dramatic, but probably fake. Then, in 1960, everything changed. A group of archaeologists stumbled upon Lansons, Meadows, up in Newfoundland, Canada. And what they found? Actual Viking stuff. Like real-deal archaeological evidence. Blacksmith workshops, wooden structures, even Norse-style nails and tools. It was like finding proof that a legend actually walked the earth. And here's the thing. This wasn't some thrown-together camp. These buildings were solid, planned out, meant to last. The Vikings weren't just stopping by. They came to stay. That site is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the strongest pieces of evidence that Vinland was 100% real. It's like History reached out from the ground and whispered, "Told you we were here." Kinda makes you wonder what else we've missed, right? And the deeper lesson? Truth doesn't stay buried forever. Give it time, and it finds a way out. Whether it's a secret, a memory, or a 1,000-year-old Viking outpost, it all comes up eventually. So yeah, we've got proof they came, and even more proof they didn't stay. But what could have happened if they had? So now I gotta ask you, what if the Vikings had stayed? Would North America speak Old Norse today? Would Viking gods be taught in schools? Would your history book look completely different? The truth is, history isn't just written by the winners. It's written by the survivors. And the Vikings? Well, they didn't stick around long enough to rewrite the ending. But here's the crazy part. How many other stories like this are still buried out there, just waiting to be dug up? Not by archaeologists, but by curious minds like yours. Stories that challenge everything we've been told. Stories that flip the script. Now I'm really curious. What part of this Viking saga surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one of them. And hey, if you love discovering mind-blowing stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Trust me, we've just scratched the surface.